People like you use the service elevator." Vanessa Brooks did not raise her voice. She did not need to. The contempt in her eyes said enough. At 8:17 on a cold Monday morning, the executive elevator of Carter Global stood open on the 42nd floor, its polished steel doors reflecting a black man in a gray cleaning uniform, worn work shoes, and a plastic badge that read, "Eric." His hands rested calmly on a cleaning cart loaded with spray bottles, folded towels, and a mop. Vanessa stepped inside wearing a tailored cream suit, carrying a designer handbag that cost more than most employees made in a month. She glanced at him once, then pressed the lobby button. "I'm sorry," the cleaner asked quietly. Vanessa sighed as though repeating herself was already an inconvenience. "This elevator is for executives. Maintenance staff have another one near the loading dock." The man looked toward the small brass number above the doors. 42. "I was assigned to clean the conference rooms on this floor. Then someone assigned you incorrectly." Vanessa reached past him and held the doors open. "Please step out." Around them, employees hurried through the glass-lined hallway, but nobody stopped. Nobody questioned her. To them, he was simply another cleaner, standing where he did not belong. His jaw tightened for half a second, then relaxed. "Of course, ma'am." He pushed the cart backward onto the marble floor. Vanessa gave him a satisfied nod. "Good. Learn the rules, Eric. Carter Global has standards." The doors slid shut between them. Silence fell. The cleaner remained motionless, staring at his reflection in the stainless steel doors. Then his phone vibrated inside his pocket. He pulled it out and read the message glowing across the screen. It was from Victoria Carter, the billionaire founder and CEO of Carter Global. His mother. "Ethan, are you sure you want to keep doing this?" The cleaner's real name was Ethan Carter. He was 31 years old, Victoria Carter's only son, and the man expected to inherit the multi-billion-dollar company Vanessa had just defended from a lowly cleaner. More importantly, Vanessa was the woman Ethan had planned to ask to marry him. She had kissed him goodbye just 2 nights earlier and told him she could not imagine her future without him. Yet this morning, with his expensive suits gone, his luxury watch hidden away, and his famous last name replaced by a cheap employee badge, she had looked directly into his eyes and seen nobody worth respecting. Ethan typed 4 words to his mother. "I'm sure now, Mom." He slipped the phone away and wrapped his hands around the cleaning cart. He had promised himself he would not judge Vanessa from one encounter. That was why the test would continue. For the next several days, Ethan Carter would remain invisible inside his own family's company, watching the woman he loved when she believed there was absolutely nothing he could offer her. And before the week was over, Vanessa would make a choice neither of them could ever take back. 7 days earlier, Ethan Carter had been certain he was ready to marry Vanessa Brooks. That Friday evening, Carter Global hosted a private dinner at an elegant Manhattan hotel for senior executives and investors. Ethan arrived beside Vanessa, both dressed for a room where everyone seemed to know their names. Vanessa was effortless around powerful people. She remembered birthdays, laughed at the right moments, and made every investor feel important. Watching her, Ethan felt the doubts he had carried for months beginning to fade. Maybe he had finally found someone different. Victoria Carter seemed to believe so. During dinner, Ethan's mother quietly touched his arm and asked, "Are you still planning to give her the ring next week?" Ethan smiled. "That is the plan." Victoria studied her son. "Then make sure you are choosing the woman, not the image." Ethan almost laughed. Vanessa had been part of his life for nearly 2 years. What could he possibly not know about her? 20 minutes later, he received his answer. Ethan stepped away to take a business call. When he returned, he stopped outside the private dining room after hearing Vanessa's voice near the service station. A young black server named Rachel stood beside her, apologizing repeatedly. A glass of sparkling water had been placed at the wrong seat. Nothing had spilled. Nothing had been damaged. It was a mistake that could have been corrected in seconds. But Vanessa's expression had changed completely. "How difficult is it to remember one table?" she asked coldly. Rachel apologized again. Vanessa looked at the woman's name tag, then said, "People are paying thousands of dollars to be in this room tonight. You should be grateful you have this job." Ethan felt something inside him sink. This was not the Vanessa who smiled at hotel managers or thanked wealthy clients. Rachel quietly replaced the glass. Then Vanessa turned and saw Ethan. Her entire face softened instantly. "There you are," she said warmly. "I was wondering where you went." Ethan looked past her at Rachel. Was there a problem? For the smallest moment, Vanessa hesitated. Not at all. Just a misunderstanding. Then she smiled at Rachel. "Thank you for fixing it." Ethan said nothing. Later that night, he tried to dismiss what he had seen. Everyone had bad moments. Everyone lost patience. One mistake could not define a person. He wanted desperately to believe that. Then, while Vanessa spoke with a friend near the coat room, Ethan heard her say something that stopped him cold. "Once I become Mrs. Carter, nobody in that company will ever look down on me again." Ethan stood beyond the doorway, staring at the engagement ring box hidden inside his jacket. For the first time, he wondered whether Vanessa wanted a husband or a last name. Ethan did not confront Vanessa that night. He drove home with the unopened ring box beside him, replaying her words until they became impossible to ignore. By Saturday morning, he was sitting across from Victoria in the quiet breakfast room of her Upper East Side townhouse. The ring rested between them on the table. Victoria looked at it, then at her son. "You heard something?" Ethan nodded. "Maybe I heard one careless sentence. Maybe I saw one bad moment. I do not want to destroy 2 years over assumptions." Victoria took a slow sip of coffee. "Then what do you want?" Ethan leaned back. "I want to know who Vanessa is when she believes nobody important is watching." His mother studied him carefully. Ethan explained his plan. Carter Global employed hundreds of people Vanessa barely noticed, from security officers to maintenance crews. Ethan wanted to disappear among them for several days. No expensive suit, no executive access, no Carter name. Victoria immediately frowned. "You are talking about deceiving the woman you intend to marry." "I know." "And what happens if she passes your test?" Ethan looked at the ring. "Then I tell her everything, apologize, and accept whatever she decides." Victoria remained silent for several seconds. Finally, she called Marcus Reed, the 45-year-old facilities director, who had worked for Carter Global for nearly 15 years. Marcus arrived that afternoon, expecting a routine meeting. Instead, Ethan asked him to create a temporary identity for a new cleaner named Eric. Marcus stared at him. "You want to clean your own building?" "For 1 week." "Does Vanessa know?" "That is the point." Marcus shook his head slowly, but agreed to keep the arrangement confidential. On Sunday evening, Ethan called Vanessa and told her an unexpected acquisition meeting would take him to Chicago for several days. Her disappointment sounded genuine. "I was hoping we could have dinner Tuesday." "We will when I get back," Ethan promised. "I love you," she said softly. Ethan closed his eyes. "I love you too." The words still mattered. That was what made the test hurt. Before sunrise Monday, Ethan removed his luxury watch, traded his tailored clothes for a gray maintenance uniform, and left his penthouse without his usual driver. Marcus met him through a staff entrance at Carter Global and handed him a temporary badge. Eric. Ethan stared at the unfamiliar name. Marcus lowered his voice. "Last chance to change your mind." Ethan clipped the badge to his shirt. "If I'm going to marry her, I need the truth." Minutes later, he pushed a cleaning cart into the building where people normally stood when he entered a room. This time, nobody stood. Most did not even look at him. And before 8:30 that morning, Vanessa had already ordered him out of the executive elevator. Ethan had wanted the truth. Now he was beginning to fear how much of it he was about to see. By 10 o'clock Monday morning, Ethan understood something he had never learned from the executive floor. Wealth did not only change how people treated you. Sometimes it decided whether they noticed you at all. As Eric, he moved through Carter Global almost invisibly. Men who normally rushed to shake his hand walked past without a glance. Executives who once laughed at his jokes left coffee cups on tables beside him, as if cleaning them were simply his purpose. Ethan said nothing. He watched. He listened. Most people were merely busy, not cruel, and that distinction mattered to him. Then Vanessa appeared again. She entered the 41st floor conference room with 3 managers behind her, while Ethan wiped fingerprints from the glass doors. She walked past him without recognition. "Eric," she called suddenly. Ethan turned. "Yes, ma'am." Vanessa pointed toward an empty coffee cup on the conference table. "Take care of that." "Of course." Ethan collected it. 20 minutes later, he was cleaning near the executive reception area when Vanessa called him again. This time, a stack of presentation folders had fallen beside an assistant's desk. "Clean this up." Ethan looked at the folders. "Those belong to the strategy department." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "And they are on the floor." Ethan quietly gathered them. He reminded himself why he was there. One rude morning was not enough. He needed a pattern. By lunchtime, he got one. Vanessa entered a meeting and discovered that several printed financial reports were missing. Her assistant, Daniel, immediately explained that the printer had malfunctioned. Vanessa barely listened. Her eyes moved across the room and landed on Ethan. "Did you move anything from this table?" "No, ma'am." "Are you certain?" "Yes." Daniel stepped forward. "Vanessa, Eric was not here when I printed them." For a moment, she looked embarrassed. Ethan waited for an apology. None came. She simply turned to Daniel and said, "Print them again." Ethan felt his disappointment deepen. Then something unexpected happened that afternoon. A young analyst named Jordan arrived late to a meeting after caring for his sick daughter. One executive complained that Jordan was becoming unreliable. Vanessa immediately interrupted. "His daughter comes first. We can survive one delayed report." Ethan stopped wiping the nearby counter. Vanessa sounded sincere. For the first time all day, hope returned. Maybe he had judged her too quickly. Maybe beneath the impatience was the woman he believed he knew. Then, less than an hour later, Ethan passed the break room and heard Vanessa speaking quietly to another manager. "Of course I defended Jordan," she said. "His uncle sits on the board. I am not stupid." Ethan stopped outside the doorway. The hope disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. Vanessa had not protected a struggling father because it was right. She had protected a connection. And Ethan was beginning to realize that the woman he loved seemed to measure kindness by how useful someone might become. Tuesday brought a different kind of surprise. Ethan was cleaning the employee cafeteria shortly after noon when one wheel on his cart caught against the edge of a floor mat. A container of folded towels tipped over, scattering across the floor. Several employees stepped around them without stopping. Ethan crouched to gather the towels, but another pair of hands reached them first. "Here, I have you." He looked up and saw a young black woman wearing a navy cardigan and an employee badge that read, Maya Johnson. Ethan recognized the name from internal reports. She worked in administrative operations, several levels below senior management. "Thank you," Ethan said. Maya handed him the last towel. "That wheel looks loose." "It has been fighting me all morning," she smiled. "Then I'm taking your side." Ethan laughed before he could stop himself. It was the first natural laugh he had managed since putting on the gray uniform. Maya returned to her lunch, and Ethan assumed that was the end of it. 10 minutes later, he entered the crowded cafeteria carrying a simple sandwich Marcus had arranged for him. Nearly every table was occupied. Ethan noticed something immediately. There were empty seats beside executives, analysts, and managers, but nobody invited the cleaner to sit. Then Maya lifted her hand. "Eric, there is a seat here." Ethan hesitated before joining her. "You remembered my name?" Maya looked confused. "It is on your badge." The answer was so ordinary that it affected him more than she realized. Vanessa had used his name only when giving him instructions. Maya used it because she saw a person sitting across from her. They talked about nothing important. Traffic, coffee, the unpredictable New York weather. Maya complained jokingly about an office printer that seemed determined to retire before anyone approved its replacement. She never asked what Ethan earned or why he was cleaning offices. When she finished eating, she thanked a cafeteria worker by name and carried her own tray away. Ethan watched her leave, thoughtful. Later that afternoon, he found Maya struggling with several supply boxes near the records room. "Need help?" he asked. "Only if facilities does not charge by the minute." Together, they moved the boxes inside. Maya thanked him, then paused. "You are new here, right?" Ethan nodded. "First week." "Then one piece of advice. Do not let this building convince you that job titles tell you who matters." Ethan became still. "Why would you say that?" Maya glanced toward the executive elevators. "Because some people become very polite when someone powerful enters the room, and very different when that person leaves." Before Ethan could respond, Vanessa appeared at the end of the hallway. She saw Maya talking with the cleaner and slowed. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Then she walked directly toward them. "Maya," she said, "I need to speak with you." Something in her voice made Ethan realize the experiment was no longer unfolding only around him. Vanessa had noticed Maya, and that could change everything. Vanessa looked at Maya, then at Ethan, as if their conversation had interrupted something more important than either of them. "The quarterly vendor files were supposed to be on my desk 20 minutes ago," she said. Maya checked her watch. "Daniel asked me to hold them until finance approved the revised numbers." Vanessa's expression tightened. "I asked for those files. And finance asked us not to circulate them yet." Ethan expected Vanessa to push harder, but Maya remained calm. After a tense moment, Vanessa simply said, "Bring them when they are cleared." Then she turned toward Ethan. "Eric, the executive lounge needs attention." "Yes, ma'am." Ethan followed her down the hallway, wondering whether Vanessa had approached because of the files or because she had seen him with Maya. By Wednesday morning, Ethan decided he needed one final private test before the company gala. Marcus arranged something simple. Ethan would deliver a sealed envelope to Vanessa's office containing documents labeled confidential. Inside was nothing sensitive, only blank pages. When Ethan arrived, Vanessa was alone. He placed the envelope on her desk, but as he turned to leave, his cleaning cart caught on the edge of the doorway, and several supplies fell onto the carpet. Ethan immediately apologized. Vanessa stared at the mess. For a moment, he expected the familiar irritation. Instead, she surprised him. "It is fine," she said. Ethan looked up. Vanessa crouched and picked up a folded towel. "You do not have to do that," he said. "I know." She handed it to him. "Everyone makes mistakes." Ethan could barely believe what he was hearing. Then Vanessa noticed his hand trembling slightly as he gathered the supplies. "Are you all right?" "Just tired." Her expression softened. "Take 10 minutes. Get some coffee." Ethan left her office carrying more confusion than relief. Maybe this was the real Vanessa. Maybe the woman from Monday had been stressed. Maybe 2 years of love deserved more faith than several uncomfortable moments. That afternoon, Ethan called Victoria privately. "I think I might end the test." His mother was quiet. "Because she was kind once?" "Because I am starting to wonder whether I am searching for reasons not to trust her." Victoria answered gently. "Then do not search. Observe." Ethan opened the drawer in Marcus's office, where he had hidden the engagement ring. For several seconds, he stared at the box. He was ready to believe again. Then Maya appeared at the doorway. "Eric, can I ask you something strange?" Ethan closed the drawer. "Sure." Maya lowered her voice. "Vanessa asked Human Resources about you yesterday." Ethan froze. "About me?" "She wanted your full name, your hiring date, and who approved your assignment." The warmth Ethan had felt disappeared. Maya continued. "She also asked whether you had any connection to the Carter family." Ethan stared toward the hallway. Suddenly, Vanessa's kindness that morning felt very different. If she suspected Eric was more than a cleaner, then perhaps she had not passed the test at all. Perhaps she had simply realized there was a test. By Friday evening, the top floors of Carter Global no longer looked like offices. White flowers framed the ballroom entrance, crystal lights reflected across the windows, and hundreds of guests filled the room overlooking Manhattan. Investors, board members, executives, and longtime partners had gathered for the annual Carter Global Gala. Vanessa arrived in an elegant black gown, smiling as cameras captured her beside Victoria Carter. She believed Ethan would return from Chicago that evening. She also believed something much bigger was coming. Earlier that week, Victoria had mentioned a family announcement, and Vanessa had convinced herself that Ethan would finally propose. But Ethan was already inside the building. He wore the same gray cleaning uniform and the same badge that called him Eric. Marcus had assigned him to the service team near the ballroom, giving Ethan one final chance to observe Vanessa before ending the experiment. He did not want another trick. He wanted one honest choice. Shortly before Victoria's speech, a catering supervisor discovered that several place cards for important guests had been switched during the final setup. The mistake was harmless and easily corrected, but Vanessa immediately became anxious. One of the misplaced cards belonged to a major investor. She looked around and saw Ethan near the table. "Eric, did you touch these?" she asked. Ethan remained calm. "No, ma'am. I was cleaning near the windows." Maya, who had helped coordinate administrative materials for the gala, stepped forward. "I moved them earlier. Event sent an updated seating list, but I have the corrected order right here." The problem should have ended there. Instead, Vanessa glanced toward the board members watching nearby. Her expression changed. "This is exactly why service staff should stay away from executive materials." Ethan stared at her. "Maya just told you what happened." Vanessa lowered her voice. "Do not argue with me. I'm only saying I did not touch the cards." Several conversations around them faded. Vanessa noticed the attention and became even more determined to control the moment. "Then return to your assigned area." Ethan did not move. "Would you speak to me this way if you thought I mattered?" Vanessa's face tightened. "This is neither the time nor the place. It is a simple question." Maya watched silently. So did Marcus. Vanessa looked around at the wealthy guests, then back at the cleaner standing before her. "People like you need to understand your place." The room went quiet. Ethan felt something inside him finally settle. No more doubt, no more excuses. Then a calm voice came from behind Vanessa. "And exactly where is my son's place, Vanessa?" Vanessa slowly turned. Victoria Carter stood only a few feet away. Her expression was unreadable. Vanessa blinked. "Your son?" Victoria looked past her directly at Ethan. Every eye followed. Ethan reached for the plastic badge on his uniform. Vanessa's smile disappeared. For the first time all week, she looked at the cleaner as though she were truly seeing his face. And in that terrible silence, recognition finally began to appear in her eyes. Vanessa stared at Ethan as if the entire ballroom had disappeared around them. Her lips parted, but no words came. Ethan slowly removed the plastic badge from his gray uniform and placed it on the nearest table. Eric was gone. The man standing before her was Ethan Carter, the same man she had kissed goodbye, the same man she believed was in Chicago, and the same man she had expected to propose to her that night. Marcus approached carrying a black suit jacket Ethan had left in his office. Ethan slipped it over his cleaning uniform without breaking eye contact with Vanessa. The contrast was almost impossible to ignore. "Ethan," she finally whispered, "I can explain." "I hoped you could," he replied quietly. Vanessa looked around at the watching guests. "You lied to me." Ethan nodded. "I did, and I will take responsibility for that. But the uniform did not make your choices for you." Her face fell. Ethan continued, his voice calm. "On Monday, you ordered me out of an elevator because you thought a cleaner did not belong there. You blamed me for missing reports I never touched. You treated Maya differently because of where she worked. Then you showed me kindness only after you started asking human resources who I was." Vanessa shook her head. "That is not what happened." Maya remained silent nearby. Ethan looked at Vanessa with more sadness than anger. "I wanted to believe that too." He reached into the inside pocket of the jacket and removed a small velvet box. Vanessa froze. Several guests exchanged stunned glances. Ethan placed the unopened box on the table between them. "I bought this because I plan to ask you one question tonight." Vanessa's eyes filled with emotion. "Ethan, please." He looked at the ring box, then back at her. "But this week, you answered a more important question." Silence filled the ballroom. "I needed to know who you were when you believed the person standing in front of you had no money, no influence, and nothing you wanted." Vanessa swallowed hard. "I love you." "Maybe you do," Ethan said softly, "but love cannot survive where respect is conditional." Victoria stepped closer to her son, but said nothing. This was his decision. Ethan pushed the ring box away from Vanessa and closed his hand around the Eric badge instead. "I spent my entire life believing I understood this company, because one day I would inherit it. This week taught me that I barely understood the people inside it." He turned toward the employees standing beyond the executives. "Some of you greeted Eric. Some ignored him. Some treated him with dignity when you believed nobody important was watching." His eyes briefly met Maya's. Then Ethan faced Vanessa one last time. "You wanted to know whether Eric had a connection to the Carter family. Now you know." Vanessa looked at the gray uniform beneath his jacket, and the truth finally became unavoidable. The cleaner she had believed was beneath her had never been beneath her at all. But Ethan had discovered something even more important. Nobody should have needed to be a Carter to deserve her respect. 3 months later, Ethan stood inside the same executive elevator Vanessa had once ordered him to leave. This time, he was wearing a tailored navy suit, but something about him had changed. He noticed the maintenance worker beside him. He noticed the security officer who held the door. He noticed the cafeteria employee carrying breakfast upstairs. People he had passed hundreds of times had become visible. The week Ethan spent as Eric had changed more than his relationship. With Victoria's support, Carter Global introduced new workplace standards that applied equally from senior leadership to entry-level staff. Managers were evaluated not only by results, but by how they treated the people around them. Marcus was invited to advise the executive team on employee experience, something that amused him greatly. "Took you long enough to ask the people who actually know the building," he told Ethan. Vanessa had left Carter Global several weeks after the gala. Ethan never celebrated her departure. What happened between them had hurt too much for celebration. He had loved her, and accepting that love was not enough had been one of the hardest lessons of his life. The engagement ring remained locked away, unopened. Maya continued working in administrative operations. She received a promotion after leading a project that reduced unnecessary vendor costs across several departments. Ethan made certain the promotion came through the normal review process. Maya deserved recognition for her work, not because the billionaire's son liked her. They remained friendly, but Ethan refused to turn gratitude into romance. He had spent enough time testing people. He needed to learn how to trust them. One Saturday morning, months after the gala, Ethan walked into a small coffee shop in Brooklyn and stopped when he saw Maya sitting near the window with a book and a cup of coffee. She looked up and smiled. "Well, look who finally learned how to use a building without a cleaning cart." Ethan laughed. "I was getting pretty good with that cart. You were terrible. That wheel was defective." Maya closed her book. Ethan hesitated. For once, there was no plan, no hidden identity, no carefully designed experiment. "Would you like another coffee?" he asked. Maya studied him suspiciously. "Is this another test?" Ethan smiled. "No. I think I'm finally done testing people." She held his gaze for a moment, then pointed toward the empty chair. "Then you can sit down." Ethan did. No assistants waited outside. No cameras followed him. No one in the coffee shop cared about the Carter name. For the next hour, Ethan and Maya simply talked. And for the first time in years, Ethan did not wonder what someone wanted from him. He understood something now that billions of dollars had never taught him. Character was not revealed by how people treated those above them. It was revealed by how they treated someone they believed could do nothing for them. And sometimes, the person everyone overlooked was the person who saw the truth most clearly.